Love, light, and blessings. This is Shamanic Iwa Priestess here, and I'm recording episode 3 of the ATR's African Traditional Religions. And today I'm going to talk about Santeria. I made this video like 3 times already, but I noticed like I'm having allergies, so my eyes were really watery, and I tried to watch some of the video, and I was like, ew. So just too much sneezing and all that kind of stuff. So I have like really bad allergies. This weather's like ill. It's not good for my allergies. But anyways, I wanted to talk today about Santeria. So Santeria comes from Ifa. Okay, Ifa is practiced and was practiced in Yoruba. Okay, in West Africa, and it became after. So, like I said, Ifa is practiced in West Africa. It comes from the Yoruba people. Um, Santeria has a lot of Ifa elements to it, but it's its own religion in itself because, like a lot of parts of the Caribbean, the Taino, the first inhabitants of the Caribbean, when Christopher Columbus discovered the New World, when he discovered Cuba, the population of the Taino, the Arawak Indians, the Caribes, were already living there. And they had their own religion, their own culture, and their own rights. Unfortunately, they were colonized and the population suffered from this colonization to the point where the population became dismal and they had to, well, they didn't have to. The colonizers, which were after Christopher Columbus went to the New World, to Cuba, the Spaniards um, colonized Cuba, and when they went through the Arawak Indian labor, a lot of the Arawak Indians committed mass suicides, even their own children. They took the life of their children because they felt like death was better than slavery. And that caused a really low number, like the big population that was thriving were almost non-existent, and therefore the Spaniards could not enslave them. And so they started to take from Africa, from West Africa, and they brought labor there. Um, and brought the Africans into Cuba for slavery. The Africanos that were brought from Africa, from mostly Yoruba in Cuba, they interacted with the Tainos and shared ideas because they were slaves that escaped. They were the Indians that escaped, and they kind of meshed their cultures together religious wise, sharing ideas. And it started to synchronize into a practice that's known as Santeria. There's also Catholic influences in Santeria as well. Santeria basically means devotion to the saints, but again comes from the religion of Ifa. Santeria has African origins, and it developed in Cuba through the Afro-Cubans, and later on went to spread to other parts of Latin America and certain parts of the United States, and so on and so forth, as Cubans started to migrate to other parts of the world. The Yoruba nation, okay, before colonization, they were in West Africa. They were believed to be descendants of the Lusimi religion. They were a very civilized kingdom in Africa, and they had already a rich culture. If I look down a lot, it's because I'm reading my notes because I didn't want to talk and talk and talk. I wanted to get to the meat and bones of the educational part of the video. So the Yoruba people came from the rich culture, and I didn't want to forget certain important points here. And they had their own philosophies, and they had a great sense of ethics. In Ifa, as well as Santeria, which is what we're talking about today, a lot of the history, a lot of the traditions are passed orally. So there's no book like in certain religions they have the Torah or the Quran or the Bible. Santeros have oral stories that are passed on by our elders who are revered and respected. Um, they're proverbs. They're like proverbs. They're teachings of the religion. They're teachings about the sacred Odisha spirits. And someone who's interested in this religion goes for a year and a day under the mentorship of an elder and studies these very stories that are not allowed to be shared with outsiders. Ashe, the spiritual energy of everything. The Orishas exist in nature. The Orishas are not god and goddesses because in Santeria there's only one god, Olundumbare, who chose the Orishas to communicate with humans, to intermediate with us and nature and the world, to watch over us, protect us, and guide us. Their stories are for inspiration for us to deal with the days to days of everyday life because creators believed to be so busy running the world that creator designed and created these beings to guide us. But many Orishas were believed to be human at one time. Not all Orishas were originally spiritual beings. They, in time, evolved into Orishas, such as Shango, who was an actual real king that died, committed suicide, and was believed to be later go on to be Shango. He had a different name. He was a king in Yoruba. Certain people call Santeria different things like Regla de Ocho or Lukimi. Lukimi, because some people believe that they are descendants of the people of the Lusimi, and some people say the name originated from the word Olukimi, which means my friend in the Yoruba language. Yoruba language is important in Santeria because a lot of these spirits are sang to and spoken to in their native tongue. Music is very important in the religious practice and in the rituals. Okay, the drums because there's people that study their whole life to know what are the rhythms and and the tones and the music and the words that are going to conjure, that are going to bring these spirits to life, that are going to come through the spiritual world into the physical world and minister and prophesize and help us in today's everyday life. So speaking to the Orishas is very important, making offerings to the spirits, giving them their ibos, giving them their ofrendas, giving them, knowing what days, what colors, what they like as an offering, and paying homage and honor to these spirits that are our ancestors, that are our direct lineage, is very important to the religion. They do not work with us, we work and serve them. Um, in Santeria, it's all about living in harmony with ourselves and the world around us, and it's about balance. Good and bad things happen, and we acknowledge the light and the dark, and we know that that is what brings balance into the world. This religion is practiced in Cuba, Brazil, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. They might call it something different, but the Orishas are honored there. The southern United States and Trinidad, and so on and so forth. There's believed to be 75 to 100 million people who are initiated in Santeria today. The religion is all about protection, wisdom, and success in our lives. The Babalao is the father of the mysteries, and the Babalao does divination through the palm nuts or the shells. A Santera, which is a female initiate, can also do healings and readings and help as well, and studies as well, and goes through sacred rituals. A Babalao, a Santera, or a Santero has to go through a lot in order to be initiated into the religion. And like I said, a year and a day of study, and there's different levels that one must go through in order to have a certain ranking. And it's, like I said, very sacred. And this is a very complex and rich and beautiful religion who came from the Yoruba people. And Santeria is very important because throughout, even with slavery in the Caribbean, they were able to synchronize these Orishas into the Catholic saints. And the reason why they did that was because saints were believed to be alive at one point, and therefore so were some of the Orishas. It was, they were able to hide those spirits in the saints, and that's why to this day you will see Santeros with Catholic saints will be practicing Santeria. It's not anything weird to us. It's kind of just normal and just the way it is. But there is a sanctity and a beauty to this religion, and things like that. In 1993, there was a Babalao who went to court because he felt he was being demonized for his religion. And this religion became recognized as a religion in the court case because they were talking about animal sacrifices. And a lot of people demonize that practice without really understanding what it is. We have to understand where these religions came from. A lot of these places do sustain farming. So they grow livestock, they live with the livestock, and they do certain things in order to feed the community. And Sometimes that's the only meal these people have, because you give the offerings to the spirits and then the food is cooked and then you feed the community. The animals are not to be, they're not torturing them. It's the same as someone who's eating halal meat and doing some kind of ritual, some kind of religious ceremony, and that rabbi or that Muslim leader, when they're doing halal, prays over the animal and kills it a certain way. That's the same thing that a santero or santera does. They have to receive permission from the elders and be initiated to do something like that, and taught the most humane way to do these things. And that's not done every day. They're done for certain and specific reasons, which I'm not going to get into here. But it's never about the torture of animals or to be evil or to be bad. And this person, this gentleman, brought that into the Supreme Court. And by him doing that and coming out from hiding, he was able to get this religion recognized and protected under our Constitution. And it's recognized today in the United States Army. You have actual chaplains that are Orisha ministers. And you also have federal prisons that recognize Santeria as a religion as well. So the reason I made this video was to kind of share that knowledge. So when people take these Orisha spirits, these elders, these ancestors, the sacred spirits that have always walked among the people of Yoruba, that went into the New World and allowed our ancestors to synchronize them with saints, just so that we can continue to worship and honor them, more than worship, honor them and serve them. Um, it's very important to know where these traditions come from, because when we start to change the traditions or we start to wash them down, that history and that richness gets lost. Because in order to even be initiated in Santeria, you have to study, and part of that study is you have to learn the patakis, which are like proverbs, which are oral traditions that are passed down from generation to generation. And these stories help us to live in harmony with nature. And like I said, in Santeria, there's only one God, which is Olundumbare. Okay, and Orishas are life forces. Orishas were created by Creator in order to guide the humans in their everyday life. And they're not God and goddesses, because in Santeria, there's only one God, one Creator. We must always remember where these traditions came from. The people of the Yoruba, before they were colonized and brought into the New World, and unfortunately were part of the passage and were enslaved, this nation was already rich. This nation already had history. This nation already had kings. So they're descendants of kings and queens. They had a rich culture. They had philosophies. They had certain code of ethics, okay, that they were practicing before other people came along and brought them into the new world. And it's just a beautiful thing that they were able to not only keep a lot of their culture intact. You will find santeros that still speak Yoruba and still speak to the spirits in their native tongue. That's a beautiful thing. And it's also beautiful that through the drums and through these rituals, we can actually feel these spirits coming through us, possessing people, prophesizing and healing the communities. It's a beautiful thing that the elders are very honored and acknowledged in this religion. The Babalao is sacred, the Santero are sacred. And we sit at the foot of our elders and listen to their stories. And it's a beautiful thing that these religion was able to pass on these practices, which are so sacred. And that's why the preservation of the religion is so important to me, that if Odisha is really called to you, it's okay to go to someone from that culture and be mentored in it and learn from it, because there's a richness to that. When I started to really understand that, like the Odisha and the honoring of the Odishas has really changed my life in so many ways. There's so much power knowing that the spirits that are listening to us and are willing to help us in our everyday life. But like anything, respect goes both ways. Honoring them in their tradition and give them the right offerings and learning about each and every one of the spirits that call to us, it just strengthens that relationship, and it just makes it the more powerful. Because I'm telling you, I'm guaranteeing you that if you really study these spirits that are calling you, they are life-changing, and you can feel the power of them in ritual. Like, no joke, like you can feel it. They are more than just archetypes. They are beautiful spirits in themselves that deserve, for those that serve them, our honor and utmost respect. And Santeros respect, love the Orishas, and give them that place of reverence and honor, and understand the importance of tradition. So thank you so much for watching this video, and until the next video, guys, love, light, and blessings. Bye. Or Ashe.